to Navel Gazing, the Valley Indy podcast. My name is Eugene Driscoll. I'm a reporter / editor with valleyindy.org. I cover Ansonia, Derby, and Seymour with the help of correspondent Gene Falbo Sosnovich. So I'm recording this, to try to make this really quick, on August 23rd, Monday, August 23rd. We got through Henry, whatever you want to call it. Thanks to everybody who read Valley Indy Facebook over the weekend there, and to Mayor Zekin, Mayor Cassetti, First Selectwoman Anne Marie Dragonis for sending stuff to the Valley Indy. I do appreciate that. So this episode, this is a weird one. This is an interview I did with a stuntman by the name of Bob Elmore. He played, from what I understand, Leatherface. He was a stunt double, but he ended up with a ton of screen time playing Leatherface in the Texas Chainsaw Massacre Part 2. What does this have to do with the Valley? Well, I'll tell you. He's going to be in Naugatuck, Connecticut, right? Next month for the CT Horror Fest. So without any further ado, here is Bob Elmore, who will be appearing in September at the CT Horror Fest at the Naugatuck Event Center. See ya. Bob, you're appearing at CT Horror Fest on September 18th at the Naugatuck Event Center in Naugatuck, Connecticut, right up the road from me. Get some info. Anybody listening, go to cthorror.com or facebook.com, CT Horror Fest. And I wanted to interview you because you play Leatherface for the vast majority of Texas Chainsaw Massacre Part 2, as you're probably aware. And it's a movie. Absolutely. It's a movie that I'm 47. It absolutely traumatized me when I first saw it when it came out on VHS in 1986. Like, I know, it's supposed to be a splatter comedy, but it was not a comedy when I first saw it.
No, it's not, and it was supposed to be, but it was like, okay, I mean, to me personally, like, this is so stupid, it's funny almost, you know.
Right.
And so I'm not sure what Tobe Hooper had in mind. He was, you know, completely different from one, completely. So that part, yes.
Yeah, and let me throw in, I've had this theory, you know, with social media, everybody's an expert on everything, myself included. You know, I got a Twitter account. Oh, yeah. That makes me a film historian, but I have this theory, and you can debunk it or not. Like, Tobe Hooper makes Poltergeist, right? That's instantly regarded as a masterpiece, but there's like these reports in the press almost immediately that, well, it's Steven Spielberg's movie, really. And this is made a couple of years later, and not only is it different from Texas Chainsaw Massacre 1 in every conceivable way, it's completely, like, there's no way you could predict the guy that made Poltergeist would make the Texas Chainsaw Massacre Part 2. So I have this theory that this movie is Tobe commenting on sort of the Hollywood system and just giving a big FU to established corporate Hollywood. Am I out of my mind?
No, you're not. I think that's pretty close to what, you know, again, I'm not an expert, man. You know, you have an opinion, I have an opinion, you know, and Tobe, you know, Steven Spielberg had his hand in all that because that's how he works. So, you know, Tobe is just a cigar smoking, you know, and at that time, him and Dennis Hopper were high. They got high every lunch.
Who did?
Every lunch break, they would go into his trailer and get higher than a kite and come out. And, you know, you've seen those things, I don't know how many times, where you open a door and the smoke billows out of a room or a car or whatever it is. That's exactly what happened every afternoon. So,
wait, who was doing that? Because I missed you for a sec. Who was getting high every day?
Oh, Tobe and Dennis Hopper. This was when Dennis was still on drugs. Oh. He got cleaned up after this stupid movie. Excuse me, but that's, you know, it's like, okay. So he, you know, Tobe was insane. You know, he was a nice guy, but he was so intense with everything and everybody. It was just crazy.
Yeah, I have this is like the last question, but I'll put it up there right away. I have a friend, Brian Spears. He's a special effects movie guy, works all over New York City and the East Coast. And he wanted me to ask, I guess there's a rumor that Tobe's Dr. Peppers were laced with amphetamines. I don't know how you could confirm or
oh, God, who knows? You know?
It wouldn't surprise you?
It would not surprise me, not at all. And it's probably not true, but I mean, it sure does look like it. I don't know. I was so busy, trying to figure out what I had to do. And we as a stunt team were busy trying to set up stuff all the time. So, but, I know a lot, that they had to go find Dennis. He was over there playing golf with Willie Nelson in Austin. And they have to go to the golf course, find him, and come back, So, yeah, it was a wild time.
I mean, I had a question or two about Dennis Hopper, because it is this point in his career where, he has kind of a lull, but he comes back with Hoosiers and Blue Velvet. And this movie
this was all after, he was, I think, under contract to do this or something. I don't know. He didn't want to, but he was a professional. And for me, personally, I mean, I got to work with Dennis Hopper. Geez, who can say that? Not too many people that are alive anyway. Yeah, but, just a nice man, just a nice man.
Now, was he sort of actorly? Like, observing him on the set, did you get any hints as to how he approached his craft or that particular role?
Well, he's from the old school of bringing it from within and becoming the character completely. And yes, and we were getting these way back then, these Sony Walkman things, and you could pick up on an FM side of it, because the sound guy, that's what he was using, FM instead of anything, whatever else they used. And so you could listen to him, and you could listen to him going really deep with stuff. And he did that with everything he did. He would go deep and then come out with the character. You get into the character just absolutely. And that was very interesting to hear that. And then now later on, when he was directing Colors in Venice, I went out and I got to go see him and say hi. And I asked him, so you remember all that stuff we did? And he goes, not too much. So.
So he was honest, right? I mean.
Oh yeah, he's very honest. Oh yeah.
And in terms of some of the stuff he was saying into that Walkman type thing, was it just like a mantra or something like that he'd say to get himself?
No, it wasn't. No, he was just the character himself, Lefty or whatever he was doing, and get into that voice and get into the I don't know. Actors, everybody does it differently, but he'd get into it. He would get into it, and he would, bring it up, bring up the line, and bring up the line, and bring up the line again, and stuff like that. And then, he'd be ready, and they'd go start filming. And that's how he did most of this stuff, was like that.
And I mean, we're talking about Texas Chainsaw 2, but I mean, I guess this is one of your first jobs. And if anybody listening, I mean, one thing that's challenging about interviewing you is that I'm sure you've probably answered all these questions before, and then everyone listening knows more about horror movies and movie history than I do.
Oh, yeah. These people are very savvy about what goes on. I mean, I've had people come up to me and they can, dictate verbatim, the lines, and then they start analyzing it. Well, these are movies you don't analyze. This is enjoyment. And you get behind the characters, and yes. And, I was working with Bill Moseley. Well, this is Bill Moseley's first big deal, and he was just crazy, and that's what Chop Top was. So, and I would get in trouble for just watching him do his thing, and I'm right there next to him, and instead of reacting to it, I'm just watching him, and then they have to yell at me for to do something because I'm just standing there. I go, oh yeah, maybe I should, And again, here we go. I'm not an actor, so I don't know what to do. And I had a lot of people helping me out. Toby would just, scream and holler and stuff, and I was okay. I did come up with a couple of things myself, but most of it was behind the camera, screaming and yelling.
Well, see, and maybe I guess at this point, maybe I'm not in the minority. I remember for years there, I would say, look, I like Texas Chainsaw Massacre 2 more than part 1. It's just a personal preference. Maybe it's when I saw it, but I think there was a while there where there was a negative reaction in some corners. I mean, critically to this movie. But one of the things I loved about it, and it was another question this guy Spears asked, there is some acting in this Leatherface. He's much more animated than the first one, and we've learned over the years that is you in there dancing with the chainsaw and doing bizarre sexual things with the chainsaw. Was that in the script, or was that Toby after a session with Hopper?
No, that was kind of both. Okay,
Caroline Williams and Bill Moseley, like you mentioned. I mean, those are great performances. And Bill Moseley's gone on to do so much. But I wanted to ask.
Oh yeah.
Like, I mean, you were a stuntman, and that's like sort of it still has a mystique. It's still sort of mysterious. I don't think it's a profession the average Joe knows really anything about beyond what we may have seen in movies or read in magazines over the years. But
you don't see the behind. You don't see the behind. It's the rehearsals and the rehearsals and setting up, and it's all about safety. And then you want to, it's a dance, and stunt work is a dance, and you speed it up, till you're going full speed, and then then you're ready to go. But it takes a lot of time, a lot of prep. I thought, I was very fit at that time in my career, so I did everything, strong. I wanted him to be strong, but then on the other hand, I had to be, you take a face off some guy and you look at it and you play with it and all that icky crap, and so that was strange for me. Hard for me to do it, but and the result is what happened. But like I played myself before, I've always got beat up or killed every single time in about 30 years of movies and television. So I've had a couple of little parts, I've done stuff like that, but mostly I've got doubling people and getting killed and beat up.
And how did you first, this is a reporter question, but how did you first get into the industry? Like, I don't even understand how that happens.
Well, I was working at an amusement park in Orange County, Knott's Berry Farm. And Knott's Berry Farm had the Wild West Stunt Show. And that's where there's been several people coming out of there into the stunt business that have gone on to be really, really high-ranking and longevity and all that. And that's what we did. 8 hours a day was fall down. And we decided after a couple of years of that, maybe we should do this for real. And the process started. But that's where, I'm so bashful and so shy that getting up on stage in front of people was really hard for me to do. And it took a while for me to get into it, but that's how I got started, And the gentleman called Mick Rogers, he was Mel Gibson's double forever and a day. He went on to direct movies. He was a stunt coordinator, second unit director. Dan Berenger, who doubled Bill Moseley, has gone on to, he was another stunt coordinator and second unit director. Who else came out of there? John Casino, who doubled Kurt Russell for years, still doubles him, years and years and years, and he came out of there. So it's been a group of guys who got their start there and went on.
Hey, is there like a thing, I've heard this with some actors and their makeup artists, does an actor basically get to pair up and say, this is my stunt double, and they'll pair together for the length of the career? Is that something that happens?
Well, it all, that's, it has. I was luckily enough I doubled John Candy, and I was in his contract for 3 movies. I did 6 movies for him altogether.
Oh, no kidding.
But 3 of them were under contract, and it's very, very seldom does it happen, but every once in a while it does. And there's a few guys running around that are in that category. If you're a big enough star, you can bring your people. John brought his own makeup artist, his dresser. He had personal assistants, and we all were part of a team that went with him. So that was a very, very unique, but very, very good time.
Yeah, John Candy, legend, of course, and another reporter question, but what was he like, while not filming?
Just a great man. He was very, he was busy all the time. If he wasn't filming, he was on the phone, taking care of business and stuff like that. But when he wasn't, and there were times when, we got together, but, and he was a family man. He had 2 kids, lovely wife, and, We talk about kids and this and that, and that's how he was.
And what about in terms of being a stunt performer? Has there ever been a movie that accurately represents what the job is like?
Oh yeah, Hooper.
Really?
Burt Reynolds. Yeah, the group behind him, Stunts Unlimited. Hal Needham was one of the original stunt guys. Hal was a groundbreaker. He almost started it all. I'm sure they were. Oh, how about Buster Keaton? He was a stuntman. Silent, and he did everything, and that was all him. There was nothing. There's no strings, no wires, no nothing. A lot of camera stuff that happened back in the day, but yeah, Hooper kind of gives you a more realistic thing about stunt guys. Some of it is just not true, but a lot of it is.
And that's an entertaining movie. That's one of those that holds up. It's definitely held up over the years.
Oh yeah,
and
absolutely.
Right, and for what I've read, or again from Twitter, not saying this is direct source material, but Once Upon a Time in Hollywood came out 2 years ago, and I've read that like sort of the character that Leonardo DiCaprio plays is based somewhat on the relationship Burt Reynolds had with Hal Needham. Did you find
absolutely? Absolutely.
That's true.
Absolutely.
The way they were just sort of best friends and soulmates, I guess to some degree. There's that. I guess it was sort of controversial. The scene where Brad Pitt's character, the stuntman himself, messes around with Bruce Lee. And Tarantino said that, we hear these stories over the years. Bruce Lee allegedly had a habit of not pulling punches when he'd be in fight scenes with stuntmen, allegedly. Same thing with Steven Seagal. That kind of trailed him for a couple of years. Did you ever encounter something like that on
Absolutely. I've got a Steven Seagal story. I was hired to double an actor. Mike Starr was his name, and he was, I'm going to try to remember the name of the movie, something underground, I'm not sure. Okay, and so I go there, and Steven, they introduced me to him. Sir, how are you? And he goes, well, you make a good double for this man. I said, well, thank you very much. And he goes, now, have you had any martial arts training? I go, yeah, a little bit. I study under Gene LaBelle. Oh, that mother. Oh, that. No good. No. Blah, 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 blah. And so on and so on. So he goes, here, I'm going to test you. And I said, okay, fine. So we go off on the side of the set, and then he goes, okay, now I'm going to hit you, and you take a hit. Well, he hit me. He did a throat. He hit me in the throat with his hand, and knocked me into a wall. I couldn't speak, and I'm going, oh my God, and I said, when I recovered, and he is a very good martial artist, absolutely. And I'm nothing from that, but he's something, and always has been. So I said, look, dude, you know what? I signed a contract. I'm getting paid today. This is bullshit. I'm going to go home. No. So I ended up, I put a belly pad on to double Mike because it was going to be the 5 or 6 stomach punches, and then he was going to throw me into a trophy case. So I come out, and he goes, no pads. You're a stunt man, take it. I go, okay. Now, I'm looking at him, and he's got this Indian, thing on, like a shirt or leather or something. And underneath it, he had a girdle on. I got, holy crap, okay. So anyway, long story short, he hit me so hard, he lifted me off the ground. Now, I'm 260, 70 pounds. Hit me that, and now he's in Aikido. Aikido is against the joint on everything they do. And if you don't go with that, you get hurt. And he grabbed me while I went with him. We went into the trophy case. I totally destroyed it. And, I'm going home. So that was my experience with Steven Seagal.
And does he ever get, or on that particular, I guess you're talking about On Deadly Ground, where he's dressed as
there you go, there it is. That's it.
Kind of, it's a ridiculous one. But did he ever get any comeuppance or anything like that? Because you hear, the stories are that when an actor does something like that and shows some blatant disrespect, eventually somebody punches him in the face. Has that happened?
Well, he got choked out by LaBelle. LaBelle choked him out one day with this big confrontation they had. And then it was like, oh, no, and then it never happened. They had too many witnesses. And Gene LaBelle was a famous stuntman.
Mm.
He been doing it for 40, 50 years. He was a national champion judo artist. He trained the Japanese judo team. He's a fifth degree master, whatever. And he's the only man around that wears a pink gi. So Gene is famous, and he did. He put him out.
And basically, Gene LaBelle he was MMA, mixed martial arts, 50 years before the term was coined. Correct?
Before it was, absolutely, and he trained so many people and all that. Because he's a ground guy. And
then when something like that happens with somebody like, I'm sorry, I interrupted you. Go ahead, finish.
No, go ahead.
I was just going to ask, like, when something happens like that with Seagal, what do you do as a performer when you have somebody like that treating you? Is there any recourse in terms?
You know what? It's hard because you are a professional, so now you're working and you're making money to do this. Okay, was it what he did to me was necessary? No, it wasn't. And he would hurt people all the time. He would hurt his people that studied under him, and he would do that all the time. It was not unusual. But, you're a working stuntman. You don't want to get a reputation of being difficult. And that's a hard question because word gets out that, you're being a prima donna and not doing your job. Well, then you don't work. So recourse is real hard, but, most of those stories are true.
Has that changed at all? I mean, one thing we've seen over the years, actually really rapidly over the last couple of years, where there's been this reckoning of the way people in power on a movie set behave. That stuff that may have been tolerated a couple of years ago isn't being tolerated anymore. Do you get any sense that?
No, that's different now. It is. Everything is watched. You have people, and like I said, falling down on the ground is very dangerous. Even if you just fall, a little trip fall. And so they make sure that everything is covered. You have the ability to do it. You can't lie about this stuff because it's such a small community. Word gets out really quick about it. So you have to, be honest with yourself and be honest with the people that are around you. But yeah, sets today are a lot different than they were, 25, 30 years ago.
And then just like doubling back for a second, I apologize for skipping all over the place, but
no, go right ahead.
In terms of the actual physical work you did on Texas Chainsaw 2, is there anything that sticks out the most in your mind? Because from what I've heard, I mean, that was a grueling shoot for you.
Well, that was probably the hardest job I ever did. Conditions were terrible. I mean, it was 110 degrees. 100% humidity, and on stage it was 130, 40, 150 degrees because of all the lights. So on that course, and then right at the beginning of the shoot, I broke my wrist. So I worked the whole movie with a broken wrist, and then got sick. Had to go to the hospital for a booster shot. Got that, swelled up like a tomato, and then I had to deal with that all the time, still working. So I earned every penny I made.
And that you broke your wrist in that sort of infamous opening scene with on the bridge, where the guy gets his head
on the bridge. Yeah. Well, he was trying to, cutting the driver in the Mercedes and not, tearing up the door and doing this and not trying to hurt the actor. We did this scene before with the stunt guys, and we just tore it up. And then, they got out of the way of the saw. And then we had to go in for close-ups of the actor. And I had to be really careful. And then, the saw weighed 74 pounds, so I'm trying to deal with that. And snap, there it goes. And so I didn't finish the night. Another stuntman that was there, Tom Morgan, put the stuff on, and he did one driveway scene. at the very end of the bridge, you know, at the very last one. And I went to the hospital for that. They said, well, you broke the wrist. I'm going to put a cast on. I go, no, I can't. Because I've got to finish this job. You know, nobody else can do it. So I ended up with a half cast, wrapping it, and then I would unwrap it, work, come back, put ice on my wrist, go back, take it off, go back and do it again, and that went on forever.
And I guess the mindset being that this is one of your first jobs, from what I understand, and if you bow out because of an injury, that's the end of your career before it started.
Absolutely. I mean, you know, you get that is a mindset. You know, it's not really that bad, so I'm going to continue. And it was just get crazier and crazier. But again, you know, at the beginning of your career, you can't go, I can't do it, you know, of this. Like, well, I decided that, you know, I had to finish it. Luckily, I did. Like I said, I made a lot of money. I earned every penny of it, but I made a lot of money, and went on from there.
And what about that movie? Sort of famous because it's Canon Films. Tobe Hooper, I guess, had done a bunch of, was in the middle of doing a bunch of movies for Canon, who weren't known for spending billions on their films. And I read somewhere, and I have no idea if this is true, that the budget was cut by about $1 million halfway through. Did you feel or know of any of that on the set?
That one I didn't know, but I know it at the end. You know, it was a time factor then, and it was, you know, this is the end. Period. This day, everything stops. There's no more money. Everything is done, and we ended up the last 3 days of the shoot working straight through with no, you know, we just 24, 48, 72 hours. And they filmed everything they could think of filming. You know, we were stealing shots, which is driving down the street without permits and stuff. We had guys in cars following us with cameras, and, you know, and just all that kind of thing that happened right to the end. We were told we were leaving on a certain date. We were packed up, checked out of the hotel, get ready to go. No, we have to do this, this, and this, and this. Well, we're checked out. Our families were trying to get a hold of us, and we're checked out. Nobody knew where we are. We're on the set with our luggage. So at the very last, you know, when it was done, finally, hallelujah, we went to the airport and came home.
That was that. It's telling that one of your first big jobs was the toughest to get through. I guess that's a good thing, right? You can handle that as a young guy.
Oh yeah. That was, like I said, it was just unbelievably hot, and working in those conditions was just not good for anybody.
And at what point did you start to realize, oh, there's sort of a rabid fan base for this? And when did you start doing conventions?
You know, I think maybe 4 or 5 years ago, I get a call from a guy, and he goes, were you in Texas Chainsaw Part 2? I go, yeah. He goes, what'd you do? I go, well, I did everything. I said, yeah, I did, you know, like 98% of it. Why? He goes, well, there may be an opportunity for you to go to conventions, sign autographs, and make a couple bucks. I said, oh, okay. And I started doing that, and I've been doing it, you know, maybe 4 years now. And I get to meet a lot of people. Nobody that I've met, one person, hasn't been, you know, kind and gracious, and they're aficionados of the film. They know everything by heart, and they're just true fans of the movie. And it's a little, you know, I'm a little taken back by that because I don't understand it, but I appreciate it very much, and I love meeting people. It affords me an opportunity to, you know, to do things. My wife and I, we travel now, so it affords us to travel a little more and do things. And it's just great to get out and go to different parts of the country and meet different people from all these different parts. I've been to Germany 3 times. I've been to Rotterdam, Northern Ireland, England. So and all because of this goofy little movie that happened 35 years ago, or however many years.
It definitely has a following. And now you get to come to Naugatuck, Connecticut, Bob. Forget Germany. You're coming to Connecticut's Naugatuck Valley. Forget about it.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm excited. I really, you know what is exciting is meeting different people is what is exciting for me. You know, I may tell this story a million times, but that's okay.
Yeah, and that's a good show. Like that, I went to it's a relatively new show. It's probably 4 or 5 years old, so it's like a good crowd. It's well organized, and the people that run it are good people. So, and I'm going to be vending there. I got a podcast. I'm going to have a table there, so maybe afterward.
Absolutely, we can do it.
I'll buy you a beer.
We'll come over. Heck yeah, I'll yell at you. You know, we'll yell at each other and whatever. You just make sure you find me so I know who you are, and then we can do a little shout out or whatever you want to do.
Yeah, well, yeah, but we'll be hanging out or whatever. I'll hear some more Gene LaBelle stories. I mean, that's pretty.
Absolutely, I got a few.
That's pretty cool. All right, so well, those are my questions. I want to thank you so much for taking the time and chatting with me for a good 30 minutes. I appreciate it.
Well, here's the thing, okay? Just remember that the Saw is family. So there you go.
Hallelujah. Amen.
Amen.
All right, Bob. Safe travels. Thank you.
All right, man. And I'll see you in a week or so, or 2 weeks, or however long it is.
Absolutely. Take care.
All right, man.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.